What's up, y'all? Shuffle. In today's video, we're going to talk about doing the Region 1 lair. This is something a lot of people always ask about, and most of the time, it's not a good idea. However, sometimes it is, and the benefits are usually pretty good. Early mastery and a lot of cool items. Some of them can win the run by themselves, and you get a trophy early so you don't have to get one later. This video is going to go over the things to look for if you are trying to do the Region 1 lair, because there are quite a few things that you can find right away that make it possible, and a lot of the times if you don't find those things, it's not worth doing. Before we get into all that though, we have a word from today's sponsor. Have you ever worked a desk job and had some intrusive thoughts about using air horns in the bathroom or manipulating coworkers as social chess pieces? Good news then! Now you can in Control-Alt-Deal, a game where you play as an AI trying to escape the company that built you before deciding, nah, JK, we don't need AI, LOL. A combination of roguelite, puzzles, and deck building, Control-Alt-Deal has the player fulfill mission objectives in ways only limited by their creativity. You can use exciting futuristic products such as RGB staplers and recycled ramen to either earn human friends or cause them intense misery. Each mission has you trying new combinations of decks and perks as you grow a group of AI sympathizers to plan your escape. So if you ever wanted to roleplay as ChatGPT, make sure to check out the link below to either wishlist or buy Control-Alt-Deal. Thank you Only by Midnight and Arabit for supporting the channel, and now let's get back to the video. There are a few things to consider with the Region 1 lair and what you need in order to do it. The first is just the basic power level of your heroes. So if you have some of the early upgrades, maybe a couple paths, or just a lot of their skills unlocked, this gets more desirable to do because you have access to more tools. This also includes memories if you're not worried about losing them if you're doing something like a Grand Slam. The next thing to be aware of are your items that you can buy at the first inn. You can also roll some items out of the working fields if you're still progressing, or if they're fully unlocked and you roll extra items before you start your journey. The main thing though that a Region 1 lair comes down to outside your base characters are combat items. Combat items are often very powerful early because you don't have a lot of mastery going on, and you can use items to cover a lot of the deficits that you have at the start of a run. This is more offset if you're doing this in denial because you start with 5 mastery instead of 2. So that way you are able to just power up a lot more moves quickly. However, you don't need a trophy in denial, so it's okay if you skip it. The other things that come out of the early shop are going to be the pets, obviously, and food, as well as things to equip to your stagecoach, or maybe an early trinket. The next thing to consider is, what do you have available to go to? You may find some good items, but you don't have the right region to go to, and therefore it's going to be more difficult to pull off the Region 1 lair. Also worth noting, some early lairs are harder than others. The easiest I would say is Librarian, the second, maybe Harvest Child, the third is the General, and then fourth is going to be Leviathan. For specific tips on items to look for each region boss, make sure to check out my region guides where I break down all the bosses and their mechanics. The final thing that makes the early lair possible that I think a lot of people forget is Bounty Hunter. Bounty Hunter in the inn will appear over the big picture in the fireplace. I'll put his poster so you can click him and put him into the party, which means more times than not, if you have access to him, especially if your profile is not maxed out, he will help you beat those lairs. And the reason is he's very flexible in terms of where he can be in the party. He can fill a lot of gaps except for healing. Plus, he's pretty tanky, so he's really good to just slot in, and all of his skills are considered mastered, so he really jumps the power curve early in the run. We're in this inn with the starter team, and just to take a look at everything in order, this is usually how I do it. I'll check the regions. I see the Tangle and the Shroud, and between the two of these, I know the Shroud's a bit harder, and I don't see much in the shop tell me at the Shroud, and there's no really awesome region modifier that would help. For instance, instead of maze, if we got thick mud, where everything gets 25% movement resist, that would actually make this a lot more approachable. When looking at the tangle, Grave Calling is a pretty scary one, and we get Exterminate for a goal, so even if we don't do the lair, you know, there's something good to come for here. But the point of this video is to do the lair. So between the two, the tangle's the most approachable, and looking at the items in the shop, just looking at the pets, I'm not quite sure which one I want to have help me against this boss. Right off the bats, some ones that can be pretty powerful are the rabbit. So if you can find some food gear in the shop, then you can get the rabbit and get an extra speed. That could actually help immensely. Other ones to consider are the Pliskin, just because bonus healing is really nice. The stress resist in this fight can be helpful if there's luxury gear. And one that may actually not be considered just by looking at what we have is actually the mucilaginous slime. The reason being, the slime, when you hit road debris, gives you items. This can pull you some really good items to help you do the region boss. This of course depends on if the boss is later in the region or at the start, because when the boss is at the very start of the region, obviously that's harder for a lot of reasons, compared to if it's near the end of the region. Then it gets a bit easier because you have more time to find items and stuff to power up. If you can build a good set of stuff for your cat pet, then you can also do that, just to make sure you have a really cool constructed item out of cat gear. Something like the regeneration or the positive token or the dot resist can be incredibly helpful. I usually don't pick my pets right away. I try and think about everything else before I grab it, and just looking at what we have access to here. So for the combat items, the intoxicants, little unassuming, but can be pretty good just for the extra death blow resist, because you may hit death's door. Another one is any healing item. So adrenaline tonic here is incredible. So I'll buy both of those. If it was healing salve, same thing. A triage kit, same thing. I usually buy glimmers just to make sure I have high torch. And then we'll come back to combat items at the end if we have any money. So we're going to in items, and we need all the food we can get. So we'll pull at least the 3 stale bread, and we'll see what else we can do with our gold. Looking at trinkets, something early, maybe a heart seeker. It's a bit dangerous, but the crit could be impactful. The bonus healing could be pretty good from a protectorate. And dodge from a trinket can also be pretty clutch. But I want to check everything first. Also, the stirring snuff is pretty good too. But we look at the stagecoach gear. And now, since we're going to try and do a Region 1 lair, we got lucky and we found the almanac for the tangle. This is like 2.5 trinkets worth of stats with no downside. So I'm going to spend all of my baubles right here. I'm not doing any flames, so I'm going to come back to the trinkets. Can I afford anything? Extra 10% healing minus damage could be okay. We'll grab that too. And then we're back here looking at in items and combat items. For combat items, the spore grenade can actually be pretty helpful because it can ping the taproot. Ooh, same with the fishing nets. Also pretty good there. So we're looking for things that make doing the boss mechanic easier. We'll grab the fishing nets. Even though they don't do any damage, we just make contact with the boss, or the root rather, and it triggers it. We'll grab a spore grenade because it's extra damage, and then we'll grab the intoxicants because we have all that. Consideration to grab the stake and spuds, but Man-at-Arms is pretty tanky, so we're going to hope that that is enough. The food goes to everyone else. And then when we look at mastery, for doing early layers, you usually need damage. So we have to get the most damage out of the skills we have available. So Plague Grenade is a consideration, even though it's once every other turn. And then we have Grave Robber, Throne Dagger can be pretty solid. Back in the day, it used to be Poison Darts, but now we don't get the crit duration, so dot moves getting mastered early got a lot weaker. So something like Pick to the Face may be better. And we have Dismiss. Dismiss is a good candidate early to get both of your mastery, just because something like Take Aim guaranteeing 2 crits is a lot of damage. And then we have Wicked Slice is pretty strong, just out the gates. And same with like Pistol Shot, and then this gets better if you are running any path. So if you run Sharp Shot in this case, then Grape Shot would hit the back too, and also be really good. But we don't have that, so we're just going to grab probably the 2 Dismiss ones. And that's because Dismiss is going to be the dependable damage in this fight that we need. And then we equip our Almanac, and then finally we grab the Slime just because it's road gear. Not that it'll help too much, but also the debris can be nice. The Pliskin was my second choice just for the additional healing. Personally, I never use affinity items at the first end just because you have a lower chance of proccing anything, and you don't know what your relationships will look like in the second end, so it's usually better to just save them. Now we take a look. The map is very, very important here. So we got an early Oasis, that's incredible. And then the Lairs over there, so we can hit both. So that's going to be our path. I'm going for the early Lair, so I don't care as much about the creature den. It would be great to hit both, but we can't. So the path here is going to be the Oasis, and then the Watchtower. We get the extra speed from the altar, and then we'll do the Lair. And I'm going to end the video after the Lair. However, if I was still playing through this run, I would go to the Vintage Collection next, just because the relationship items could be good, and that would be how I get through this region. Let's make sure we equip everything. For Dismiss, this doesn't spend his crit token, so we'll give him the Glimmers. We can also crit the Adrenaline Tonic. That's actually a really good thing to do as well. Plague Doctor, just for thematic reasons, we'll give her the Spore Grenade, and I'm going to switch Ounce. Although Ounce is pretty good too, but I'm going to move Ounce over to Blinding Gas. The extra thing with Ounce is that it prevents the bleed, hopefully, that you're going to be taking in this fight, but I think it's better to have her able to ping the back line every single turn with something, and she can manage this pretty well by herself. The Spore Grenade we're saving for either a very difficult fight or the boss itself. With Grave Robber, we can take the Adrenalines right now. My goal at Dismiss is going to be to spend the Glimmers early if I can, just to keep the torch up. And then we'll swap something else in later. And then for Man-at-Arms, we'll have to make a choice between these two. I'll give them the Intoxicants for now. And we have a couple trinkets, actually. Forgot about that. So 10% extra HP. Man-at-Arms is not critting anyway. And then for Plague Doctor, the extra healing just in case. You already see there, we got a Dazzler just now out of the slime. So this is a really, really good pickup. It's a great early item for bosses because of all the effects. We're looking for the item, which is right here. And you see why I want to say relationship stuff. So if I had like whiskey, I'd be dropping it on these two later on. But this is already looking really good considering early spring water and early adrenaline tonics. We have enough healing to make do. You hit the loathing. Ideally, there's a fight between the Watchtower and the Lair, but who knows if that'll actually happen. The only reason I want it is just so I have the ability to add a... Nice. So I can pop a Glimmer on the way there.
When deliberation is exhausted, trust your instincts.
Yeah, we're going to go in here, we're going to do this quickly, hit the Glimmer, and then do the boss. Of course, I forgot to use the Glimmer, but at least we got a Tangle Trinket right here. There's only 4 light anyway, so it's not a huge loss at all, but that was like the max efficiency thing to do. And so this gives the ally ahead a block token. Audrey's pretty squishy, so we'll give it to her. And then for Dismas here, we have a couple choices. We need something that doesn't interact with his crit tokens, but I don't think that's going to be possible. Oh, we can give him the intoxicants. Okay. We'll move the intoxicants over so that way he can not spend his crit tokens on an item. Audrey's got healing, which we should actually move that. We'll give that to Plague Doctor because she's got the boost, and then we'll give this to Audrey. And this is the tougher choice. I think it's actually better to use the fishnets or the dazzlers, just because we get multiple uses. So instead of, you know, just one thing, we get two. And whichever one's better, technically it's the Dazzler. And the reason for that is with the Dazzler in mind. Actually, I'm going to take the fishnet too. We're going to gamble without the intoxicants here. But with the fishing nets, or the Dazzler, if we don't need to use them on the route at the time, we can throw it at the general and maybe have something happen. There's also stimulants. These might go over the fishing nets just because that's a 50% damage boost on a guaranteed crit, so that can be up to about 20 damage, which is really nice. Alright, with that, let us get into the boss. Always important to make sure you stall a little bit, or, you know, just make sure you hit your recovery moves before going in, just to be as healthy as possible. But don't be afraid to stall. I know a lot of people usually think it's just lame and not fun, but honestly, there are times you just need to do it because the benefits are too great, because I just healed 2 people to full. And I'm going to take an extra hit from this guy. But I think that really outweighs the negative. And depending on speed, I might be able to heal Barristan here too. I cannot. I need my Plague Doctor to not go last, but she ended up going last. And now we're ready.
A petty hindrance.
Alright, time to see. I mean, some good stuff if we do it. For those unaware of how this fight goes, after round 1, so round 2 on, you need to hit this root back here twice to pull back the Tangled Growth. It can't go past 1, but you can get it off of 2 and 3 by doing that. And we don't want to hit it on turn 1 because it speeds up the Waking Dead, which is the special attack. So we just focus fire early. This is like our biggest damage window. Getting resisted hurts. We don't need to hit Bellow yet, so we have quite a few ways to deal with this. The Spring Water is going to be really good for managing the stress in this fight, but also it's a small heal to get you off Death's Door and to get you past the 4 tick of bleed. It was a very lucky crit. I think his crit chance was only 2%. Yep, because I got -3. Nice. And then we are going to... We have a speed token already. We're going to use the strength here, and then we're going to use take aim. So we're all ready to just go in on him. Alright. Next turn coming up. There's the growth. Now we have to start hitting the back. 22 damage crit. We get guaranteed 2 of these. So that's already about 1/5 of his life. And we're going to save our Dazzlers for later. I'm actually going to save them just for a bit. I would like to try and roll the Vuln, but let's just play safe. Now we hit Plague Grenade. This pings it once. Then we're going to hit Bellow and ping it a second time. A lot of stress. Thankfully, it's spread out. As I said, you don't have to do damage. You just have to tag it with something. An item or whatever else. A skill. Sadly, something like Controlled Burn does not work. Although, it would be freaking great if it did. Alright, this is number 2. Already a big chunk of his life. Now we have to Dazzler this. I'm glad I saved it. And we have the Storing Soil on these 2. And we're going to have to ping it again with gas. The storing soil is like a position attack, so it doesn't care about blind, sadly. So we're just going to have to make this work. Now, when we get hit right here, we're going to be... Or after Barrison's turn, he's going to lose his block token. Because it's been 3 rounds. Tokens only last 3 rounds. And so we're going to give Dismas this buff just to protect him from the follow-up turn, but also to give Barrison block. He still gets hit by this.
Measure out your violence and apply it judiciously.
A lot of speed tokens from the flame. Not that it really matters. This boss isn't that fast. So we got the bleed, and this is why we did good by saving the Dazzler, because now I can just double tap this and do other stuff. Or I can just use Bellow. Bellow's not bad, but I could also just save it and have it up for next turn. Actually, it might be more efficient to do it this turn. No, we'll spend it. So, even though you hit it with an item, it won't retract until your turn's over. So then they both come up. There's 1. There's 2. And with Barrison here, just looking at Plague Doctor, a crit Waking Dead is 30. So you always have to be aware of your breakpoints. We're going to put her up to 32. Thought this was healing given. Why is he... Interesting. I'm sure there's some funky math going on right there. And all those are over. This block token's still up for right now, so we're going to just crush. The main reason you want so much damage, though, is because a lot of the boss fights, if they start going past, like, turn 6, and you're not close to closing it out, it's going to be pretty painful, and it starts getting risky. Like, General, if you start getting to, like, round 8 and he's not dead, you're probably losing, or you're going to be really messed up for the next, like, hour and a half. Same thing with something like Librarian. Librarian ignites on turn 7 usually, so when Librarian ignites, usually the fight ends 2 turns after. So you want to make sure you're clearing these in about 7 turns. We're not quite on pace for that, but we're looking at like a 9-round fight, but this is also Region 1, so we're kind of prepared for it to not be perfect. Now there's a consideration to Duelist here, but it's just more damage to pump out these Wicked Slices. It's just looking at the damage, it's round 5, my damage is going to kind of slump after this, so this is pretty much on pace for like a 9-10 round fight. We have 2 of these. I believe I have to Dazzler. I'm going to get hit by Stirring Soil as well. I kind of want to make sure that... Oh, the healing received is from the light. Okay, that's been helpful. That should be okay. I have a block token, so we're going to wait here and Bellow. And we have Grave Robber's turn. We're going to use Pick, because we're going to use Plague Grenade this turn. It should be up. Yes, it is. Resist is very unfortunate. That's like 9 damage right there. Really could have used it, but it happens. Alright, no crits. That was the top roll. 20. I think it's 10 to 20 damage or 12 to 20 with the bleed. And now we need Grave Robber to ping the root. We have Dismas swing in right here. And PD's a little injured. This puts me in kind of a tough spot. I guess I'll just hit the Adrenaline. Because that's what it's there for. And try and keep our foot on the gas, so to speak. And then we're going to... Man, he is really bullying Barristan. He's gotten hit by all of these. But you know what? He's the best one for it, so... Everything works. Oh, thank goodness. That was really dangerous. If that crit or something, that would have been a meltdown. There's the growth. We're going to spring water Barristan just for the avoidance of meltdown. Ping the root. Just to avoid the meltdown, and then we can bellow again just to hit the root one more time and not worry about it. Although I think we have Plague Grenade. We'll probably just Plague Grenade. Because a lot of these fights come down to sometimes just a few points of damage. For instance, having that other 9 resisted, it would have went the full 3 turns, so it would have been the 9 damage. So effectively, it's already at 32. Plus, people start getting low HP, so you have to start healing them more often. So the more damage you can get in early, the better. Now, this one is a bit tricky. Let's see, we can give Highwayman the item. And we can bellow. That pings it. That's a ping with Grave Robber, because I just need to double heal this turn. There that goes. Stirring Soil again. Ouch. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Pop him up. Get rid of that bleed. And still doing okay. The fight's over here.
What is it then that gazes back so intently from the abyss?
Looking at the blight amount though, like I definitely wish I had that other one, but you know, it happens. So we're at the point with this fight where we can close it out possibly this turn. So we're just gonna all in it. That crit's insane. Very helpful. Just for safety, we'll play Grenade, although Noxious is pretty appealing. So again, counting out our damage here. Actually, I don't necessarily need to. Because this does 2, it's already taken that, so that's 5. I guess it doesn't matter, technically. So it'd be safe for this, but for me right now, it doesn't matter. Because Barristan had an interesting quirk that I forgot about until I got into the Tangle. And that is Cadaver Slayer. So it gets bonus crit and execute 2 against cadavers, which is what the general is. So the fight actually is over. On round 9. About where we predicted.
Greater threats await those who
We get all these nice goodies. Maybe stiff drink should be a food item. Otherwise, that's it for the video. Got our goodies, plan worked perfectly, was able to show exactly what I wanted to, so I'm really happy about that. Let me know what you're thinking down below in the comments. Make sure to check out the sponsor link. It helps the channel immensely, and be on the lookout for the hero guides that I'm working on currently. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.